Yeah, thank you, Peg, and for all of you for being here. It's really awesome. So, yes, I am reading from my new memoir, Holding Sylvan, that came out in March, which is really about one of the biggest mistakes, the mistake of nature, which is that not all children are born healthy or survive labor. And my son was severely brain damaged during his birth. And it's also about the mistakes that doctors can make when they insist that they do everything to keep their patients alive. Now, my husband and I insisted that our son be allowed to die, and this memoir is about the time that we lived with him, his 38 days. For this event, I thought, well, I really have to think of a smaller mistake than that. And when I finished my first draft, my readers said, you are behaving very well in this book. And the truth is, I feel that I did behave very well while my son was alive, but I thought, I had to have made some mistakes. So I wrote another section. I added some things to the book. And one of the things I added was how I behaved with my mother-in-law. So that's what I'm going to read. Still swollen, still strutting with disappointment and rage, I make the bed for David's mother. She's the only grandparent who hasn't met Sylvan, and she's arriving from New Jersey for a week. She's hoping that she has timed it so that she can both meet Sylvan and be here when he dies. In the best of times, Linda is loving and sympathetic, but always she and David argue. They argue on the phone, too, but their arguments are worse in person. Sometimes David simply argues about her inability to argue well, how she says whatever comes into her mind. This week, Linda brings as fallback conversation her boycott of France. Though she considers herself a savvy liberal, we consider ourselves more liberal, more informed, better able to read between the lines. For us, her boycott of France is misguided. And yet, when David arrives with her from the airport, he tells me that for once he couldn't be bothered to argue politics. I take her suitcase down to her bedroom and tell her what time she will be able to visit with her grandson. I want her to be as obsessed with him as we are. I don't want her to fill the silence with other kinds of conversation. The week passes with little change in Sylvan. He will not die while Linda is here. David and I spend all of our time at the hospital while Linda is ferried around by my mother and David's sister, trying to fill the time she's not with us. So here we are on her last night, at the end of a long day at the hospital, sitting in the living room, Linda, my mother, David's sister, eating dinner in silence from plates on our laps. David and I have nothing to say beyond Sylvan, and no one else can think of anything appropriate to fill the gloom. Linda rocks back and forth, anxiously in the glider, as if to fill the silence this way. Next to her foot on the rocking stool lies her empty dinner plate. I watch the plate going back and forth. I'm sure she'll break it. I consider getting up to move the plate to a more stable surface, but then I realize I'd rather have the haughty pleasure of having known that she would break it. I suppose I want something to break. I want not only the triumph of having predicted that it would break, but also to feel this petty pain and anger, because the pain of losing Sylvan is anything but petty. It is entirely unpredictable in its vastness. The strain of loving him is starting to take its toll. So, I am already primed when Linda begins once again saying what a shame it is, but she's never going to buy anything French again. Wine, mustard, shoes, or even go to France for a visit, though she's always wanted to see Paris, and I lose it. I jump up, I say, how dare you talk that way? What way, she asks. That hateful way. My French son. She stops rocking. With my French son dying in the hospital. French, she says bewildered. Your son is French? Yes, I say, my voice rising as I stand up. My son is French, and my son is Jewish. After weeks of cramped stress, the expansive light inside my head is as uplifting as champagne. I am more than myself. I have transcended politics, borders, hatred. I feel as though my love for Sylvan has transformed me into every mother who has ever lost a child in the history of the world, as if I have become love itself. And in my heady delusion I say, "Get this woman out of my house." "Me?" she says, still bewildered. But my rage does not abate. If Linda's not going to break that plate, then something's got to break. David pulls me from the room. For once, he does not insist that I do the right thing. He does not insist that I go and apologize. He's used to my sudden rages. He's used to being the one who civilizes me in petty circumstances, at cocktail parties when someone says something I think too stupid and selfish to keep silent about, and he tells me to go back and apologize. But now he seems to understand that I need to rage, that I need to be breaking things, that this is the visit where I will be the one to fight with his mother, that I need to feel righteous. He tells me to go to bed while he deals with her. In the morning, Linda remains. Here she comes up from the guest room. She finds me in the kitchen alone, where she offers to make her chicken soup to leave in our freezer before she returns to New Jersey. Would I like that? Sure, I say noncommittally, knowing David would like it. She and David go off to the store and return with a chicken, a parsley root, some carrots, onion, and dill. And while she shows me what she's putting in the pot, she says, "I'm sorry I upset you last night. I wasn't thinking." "I'm sorry I tried to kick you out of the house," I say. "I wasn't thinking either." "I love you guys," she says, "and I just want to help." I want to say I love her back. But the real and flawed love between a mother and her adult children is too distant and confusing to ponder. I feel as if my love for Sylvan has been distilled into something so pure that what other people call love is a lie, a mere convenient word. And so I mumble, "Thanks." And it isn't until she has returned to New Jersey that I feel how hard this must be for her, to love a dying grandson from a distance. As Sylvan's mother, I may be suffering the most over Sylvan, but as his mother, I'm also buffered from the pain. He is in my arms for hours and hours. 7 inches is the distance between us, between my face and his. I can see him perfectly at 7 inches away. But even my eyes are starting to betray me. If I sit and look at him for too long, when I look back up, the world around me is a blur.